Hi there. In this video, we will talk about functions, which is a continuous to the topic we discussed in the previous videos about the loops, which could include if statement or for, condition or while. The good thing about function, if I would like to write a code and use it several times, instead of typing the code several times, I can type it one time. And whenever I use this code, I can call it. And this is what we mean by function. So function is a group of code that can be used several times. But also the function has variables, which we call it arguments. The arguments can be included in the function, or it can be mentioned when I call the functions. And I'm going to show you both ways, how we include the variable inside the function, or how can we write it down when we call the function. Then we will go through different types of functions, like computational function. So the function by itself will do some mathematical calculation. A time function, which can set up the time for us. Drawing, where we can use asterisk to draw different shapes, and finally recursive or returning function. And with that in mind, let us go to the definition, which is, as I said, it's a block of code that we can write it one time, but we can use it whenever we need. How we start the code, as you can see here, we start by def, which means definition. And here I have my first function. I call it first underscore function. This is the name of the function. And in this function, I need two items, the first name and the last name. And once the user enters the first and last name, the function will reply back by mentioning his full name, and a sentence says, you did the first function correctly. So here you can see that the variable are under the function. In the next one, I will put the variable here inside the function. And this is what we mean by the arguments of the function. And here, whenever I call this function, so I can put this definition in any place of my code when I make a big code. And whenever I need this code, I can use only the function name along with two parentheses, and this will call up the function. If I run it here, it will ask me first one, the first name may be Dave. And once I finish, I get the second one, White. And then the function will say, dear Dave White, you did the first function correct. So this is what we mean by a definition of the function. How we put the arguments in this example, I put the same function, but I put them inside the function. The argument here are inside. So you see first name, comma, last name, and I put the rest of the definition here. Print, first name, last name, and then the sentence. And then I put the name myself. So here we don't ask the user to put the name, but the programmer will put the list of the names here. So when I need to call this function, I will include the names myself. And here, once I run the function, you see that all the names are mentioned automatically. So the difference between the last example and this one, in the last example, we leave the user to include the variables as input, but here we set it up inside the function and we put the input ourselves. The next one, it's the types of the function, which is, we call it computational function. And here I put the variables, as you can see, under the function or the arguments, and I set up the items myself. So here I want to calculate the cube volume of a cubic. And I say the first one is 2. I'm going to make it maybe 5. The second one, maybe 6. The third one, 9. And then I need to call each one of those cubes and calculate the volume of that cubes. And here I'm going to put the same numbers, 5, 6, 9. And look here, I need to define what is the cube volume because Python doesn't know what is the cube volume. So in addition to defining the function itself, I need to define the variable itself. So here we define the cube volume, which is the side length of the cube. And based on the side length, I can get the volume by getting the square roots of the side length, which I wrote it here. Volume equals side length 2 asterisk means to the power of 2. So here we make it to the power of 3 because it's a cubic. And once Python can make the computation, he will put it back. And now, as we did in the previous function, we need to call the functions. So if I run it, you will see here. So if we need to calculate the volume of a side length of 5 inches, we can multiply it 3 times. So 5 times 5 times 5, we get 125. And then 6 times 6 times 6, and then 9 times 9 times 9. So what you need to know here, that in computation, we put the variable and we define the variable. Now, let us look at another one. And here we need to make also computation, but for a pyramid. And this pyramid has a square base. So how we calculate the volume of the pyramid? First, we put here the height, and then we put the base side. And we call this variable pyramid volume. And remember, this argument is different from the function name. The function name, I call it p volume, but the variable which I use it to calculate the pyramid volume, I call it pyramid volume. So you need to remember that those are 2 different items. And then I make my sentence. I say the actual volume is equal to the expected, which is 405. And then I did another example to show you how we can make it more than 1 time. Now we need to define this pyramid volume in our calculation. So I say the pyramid volume has 2 digits. The first one is the height, which is here 15 and 3. The second one is the base length, which is 9 and 7. And how do we get the base area? It's a square. So here we say base length times base length, or we can say base length 2 asterisk to the power of 2. So whatever you want, it should give you the same answer. And then we need to calculate the volume. So we get the height times the base area from the prior step, and then we divide it by 3 to get the cube. And here, if we run it, we get it here 405. How do we get it? We get the base area, which is 9. So it's going to be 9 times 9 times the height, which is 15, divided by 3. We get 405. And in the second situation, we get 49. So this can show you how we make a computational function. How we make a time function. A time function, we are limited by minutes and hours. So we say here, the function name is time function. The hours has a range between 0 and 23. The minutes has a range between 0 and 59. And then we need to ask the user to put the times by minute, by hours, followed by minutes. And here we can put, what do we mean by percentage D? It means the first number that the user will include is going to be this number. And if we repeat percentage D, it means pick up this number. And then we need to define this variable, which is time between. Time between 0 and 23 or 0 and 59, this is the lowest variable and this is the highest range. So here we define it that it should be an integer where the user will enter the time, which should be between 0 and 23 or 0 and 59. How about if the user enter any number, it's not in the range, then he should get this message, you have entered an incorrect time. And then he will enter the right time. But remember here, I am using while loop. So the system will keep running until the user runs the right amount. So here it says, please enter a time, hours. I'm going to put maybe 5. And then minutes, I'm going to put 40. And then I should get you entered 5 hours and 40 minutes. If you put, as I said, different numbers outside the range, you will get an error message. The next one is a drawing function. Drawing function here, as you can see, we draw like a triangle, but by asterisk. So here we call it print triangle, and this is the variable, and the function name is main. And I put the number of asterisks that should go in the base. So here I put 4. You can put anything, so maybe you can put 9. Okay, and now we need to check. We need to define print triangle argument, which is the side length of the triangle. If the side length less than 1, it means less than 1 star. I cannot build a triangle less than 1. So it has to be more than 1. And then how we built it, we start by the base. And then for every line up, we start to reduce the number of stars by 1. So let me run it here. And let me show you. Here is a triangle. If you check the base here, you will get 9 stars, then 8, 7, and so on. So this one, we call it drawing function, and we make it by stars. The last item that we need to discuss, which we call it recursive item. And in recursive item, we need to go here. We start by building a triangle in our mind. We go by 3, 2, 1. So we go by the highest, lowest, 0, and then we go back by 0, 1, 2, 3. So how we make the recursive? For example, here I create a new function. I call it sum of the digits, where we need to add up the digits of any number and get their total. So here I have 4 numbers. The first one, 1729. The second one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Now, this one, I call it digit sum. How can I calculate this one? Here we say digit sum equal n. And n here, it should be 0. So if n is equal 0, I will get 0. It means if I put 0 here, then when the Python start computing, then he will give me 0. But I put 1729. So how Python is going to add up the digits? He will take n, which is 1729, divide it by 10, and remove any number after the decimal. So for example, if I put it here, 1729, divided by 10, it should give me 172.9. However, if I put 2 slashes, it means drop any number after the decimals without rounding. If I need to round it, then I have to make another function. So now I need to add those numbers. So it's going to be 1 plus 7 plus 2 equals 10. How about 9? Then I say, get n again and get the module of 10 out of 9. It means if I divide 1729 divided by 10, I will get 172.9. Now I say this as if 1,720. So those are the tens in the number, and then 9 by itself. So now if I put the percentage and then the number, it means get me anything under the or after the decimal. So now I add 10 plus 9 equals 90. So this is what it means. This is 2 portions of the calculation. And then I call the function. So for example, I run it and I get here. If you add those numbers, you get 19, and the expected is 90. the same thing, if you add up the second number, is going to be 12,345. First, we divide it by 10. So we take the 5 out. And then we add these 4 digits. And then we add the last digits along with them, and so on. So this is what we mean by a recursive function. I hope you find this short video useful to understand how to build up a code and repeat it, which we call it function. Thank you.